Hey everyone, welcome back to another daily update from Swift Intents. I'm Connor, and in these videos, we walk you through day by day of building a $1 million a year business in public. In today's video, I want to talk about our community, and at the end, I have some tips and tricks for you of how we use ChatGPT to help us run our business. So let's talk about our community. What is the community? We've mentioned it before in previous videos, and I want to dive a little bit deeper on what the community is and what the mission is behind it. So, as you can see, we have rebranded slightly. We are now the app launch. Why the rebrand all of a sudden? I'll get into that momentarily. But let's talk about the essence of what this is. So we've built this community for iOS developers to have a place and a resource of where you can come build, ship, and launch your indie app and learn how to make that profitable so that you can become a full-time indie developer. What we feel makes us unique is our AI expertise. So we have integrated our AI expertise every step of the way in this community to help you learn the most up-to-date ways to use AI in your iOS development, to help you with marketing, to help you with distribution and debugging and all the things there is to help with for building an app. And that is the core of what we have here in this community. And when we launched it under the name of Swift Intents Pro. Steve and I are building Swift Intents, and which is our community and our apps. But we launched and it was a little bit quiet at first, and I think a lot of that is largely due to our audience size at the moment. We have, more limited reach than to quite a few other people that are running successful communities. And I think it maybe my impression when we build products, I try and step outside of the developer or the, curator of the product and into the shoes of the user or, potential customer. And what's my impression and how am I thinking, am I going to pay for this product, essentially? Trying to take my developer hat off for a second. And I was like, well, it probably is a little bit confusing. Like, what is Swift Intents even? Like, you're familiar with Swift, you're familiar with App Intents. It's kind of a play on words there because we're focused on the future of iOS apps. But, it doesn't really mean anything to people when we don't have this established brand. And so as we are working to do that, I was like, well, our community needs to hit home a little bit more for what we're trying to achieve. And so we came up with App Launch Club, which I am very excited about. The more I say that name, the more I get excited about it. Because that's what we're trying to help you do, is launch an app and then make money with that app. And with AI, you can do that so much faster, and we have a refined workflow on how you can do that in just 14 days. And from there, Steve and I are in the trenches right now, learning all the marketing that we can in distribution for apps so that we can take all that knowledge and build it into our course to help you get to a high earning. Because I think the hardest part of becoming an indie developer is marketing your app and actually making money from it. Building is kind of the easy part. And so this community is all about that. And right now, we've got our founding member pricing at only $47 a month with a free week trial. So you get, half of our 14-day roadmap for free, which is an incredible value in my opinion. And I think it's worth at least checking it out. And we're going to be growing this more and more over time to have a really strong community of successful indie developers, sharing all the latest tips and tricks of their AI workflows and what's working for their paywalls and their distribution and their marketing strategies, because it's an ever-evolving landscape. It's evolving very quickly. And so Steve and I are hard at work to keep content and course material up to date, as well as shares the latest tips and tricks right inside so that members of our community are the first to know. So that's the direction we're going. These assets here are a little bit works in progress, but I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted that kind of professional feel to it. If you have any suggestions for branding this, let us know in the comments. I would love to hear about that. But we're keeping it simple and kind of going with this for now. But yeah, we're very excited about this. This community is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I'm going to continue working out with Steven until it is as successful as we want it to be, and then continue to even grow it from there. But we really believe in what we've built here, and I think it's the most straightforward way to launch an app in 14 days while learning how AI fits into all of that. So that is the update for our community, largely the update for today. Next, I want to get into slightly some ChatGPT focused things. So you can see here I was kind of working on logo ideas and going back and forth with ChatGPT to help with this. And so there's a few things that I think are really helpful when it comes to using AI for these kinds of tasks, such as logos and branding and stuff, and that, and I'll get into it in just a second. But disclaimer first is I don't think that, you know, all of your assets and branding and everything should be completely AI generated. They can be, but it's not perfect at it. It's getting really good. You know, you've got the latest DALL-E model in ChatGPT. You've got Nano Banana now that does really great images, and it's does a really solid job. But the trick is still in your level of human creativity and taste and experience and your level of craftsmanship. The AI just can't replicate, at least not yet. And so that's where I think, you know, some experience is necessary to kind of be able to do both of these things well. And I am not a designer or graphic designer by any means, and so I do lean into these AI tools to help me fill in the gaps where, you know, when my pen hits the paper, you know, my circles aren't very good. So like but I have the creativity and ideas in my head that I want, you know, executed. So in ChatGPT, something I actually just learned the other day is it can actually create SVGs for you. And, you know, you have to, they're not all great, but I think there's some really good use cases here for simple things like maybe icons in your app or something like that. And so to give you an example of how it can be helpful to create a logo with ChatGPT, let's use an app logo for an example. So let's say we are creating a workout app. We're going to put that into the prompt, give it, you know, AI the context, and then we're going to have it come up with ideas for a logo. So I am building a workout app targeted at bodybuilders. I just want to give it context because the more descriptive you can be, the better its ideas and images are going to be. So this app needs the logo, and I want you to help me come up with ideas for one. Let's see, let's make this conversational. Fill knowledge gaps before making suggestions. Okay, so this one line in the prompt is something I use a lot. So when I'm trying to find a solution to a problem or have it help me, you know, think through a problem, which I guess is kind of the same thing, or just come up with new ideas, I ask it to make our chat conversational and ask me questions so it can gather the context that it needs before it makes suggestions. Otherwise, you know, just this one sentence isn't great, and it's a great this is a great example of where you should use our app Sparka to help improve your prompt. But let's start with this for now. So let's see what it comes back with. It's going to likely come back with a series of questions to help build the context of what this app is going to be. So I also chose to use GPT-5 Thinking. It does take a little bit longer, but I just find its results are better across the board. And so for me, it's worth waiting a little bit. Okay, so it's going to ask me about the name, the vibe, audience, and all these things. Okay, so I'm going to answer these questions and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just went ahead and answered these really quick, but basically it asked me a lot of really great questions. So it wants to know the name of my app, the vibe that I'm going for, the audience that I'm targeting this towards, the colors I want, things to avoid, the shape of this icon. I just said an iOS icon, the personality, kind of to help capture the essence of what this is, and then competitors, typography, and symbolism. So I answered these. I just went first thing that came to my head for Strength Trainer Plus, and then old school vibes, classic bodybuilders, matte blue and white, no gradients. This one particularly, I found that GPT really loves gradients. When you say anything like app icon or modern tech related, it all leans heavy into gradients. So if you don't like gradients, make sure to specify that you don't. And then I'm going to send this and see what it comes up with. So one thing that you'll notice is, I guess, it asks just 10 questions, which I think is really great. And can also serve as a great reference point. Like if you're using ChatGPT in your workflow for creating a business, building an app, ask it to ask you questions throughout a lot of the process. And it'll help you start to think about things that you may not have thought about naturally. You know, if you're new to building apps or you're new to entrepreneurship, like it's going to help you make some of these branding decisions early on that I think like are really important, because if you have like these questions answered, the design of your app is going to be a lot more consistent, come together a lot nicely, and you can have that decided early on versus, you know, kind of piecing it together as you go. I think it's always better to go into things with a plan. So now it's got some ideas of app icons. So let's kind of read through them briefly. So the old iron plate, which I like. The idea of 2 clean concentric rings. Okay. I don't even know how to say that, to be honest with you. Some sort of band. Maybe I'm not in the gym as much as I should be if I don't know what that is. Rack and bar. Laurel plate mark. Okay. So pretty cool. Just for example's sake, I honestly kind of vibe with the first one just off of the vibes. So I really like the first one. Will you generate an image for this, not an SVG? So I want to show you the image generation of this, and then we'll go to the SVG, because SVGs are really tricky with AI. It can do super simple ones, but it can't do like complex ones, which is, in my experience, kind of just the nature of SVGs anyway. But yeah, it's going to generate this image. I'm just going to pause this real quick so you don't have to wait, and then I'll be back with the generated image. Okay, took about a minute or so. And we are back with an app icon. And so this one is super basic, but it like kind of nailed what I asked for, which I think is cool. It's the matte white and blue look, it is an app icon shape, and it does have the old iron plate, but it's like a modern kind of like, you know, app looking icon, which this is great. So you are not done at this point. So in my experience, it's a lot better if you can just recreate this in Figma, because obviously otherwise you're going to try and crop this out, and you can prompt it to get just the icon without the border, but it takes kind of a while to get there. I've tried it multiple times, and it does take a minute to get, which maybe that's a skill issue, but I've tried it quite a few times, and it's hard to get it just the exact icon dimensions. And so maybe Nano Banana is a little better at that. I haven't tried icons over there yet. You should definitely check that out. But now you've got an idea for an icon, and if you want it to look exactly like this, awesome. If not, you know, just recreate it in Figma, especially this is just a few circles, and export those layers, and now you should be putting them in Icon Composer, so you get that kind of glass effect with iOS 26 and stuff. But we're an app icon, which I think is cool. So now let's go into creating an SVG just to see what that looks like, just so you know you can do it, and then we can kind of wrap up with our daily stats. So you turn this into an SVG for me. The other thing you can do too is you can ask for like dark and light mode variants. You can ask for it to make adjustments. So, you know, it just does take a little bit of time to generate these images, but you can ask for different variants. If you're like, man, it's really close, but I want it to look more like a plate and not so like modern and minimalistic, then it could make an adjustment there. So lots of different options you can do, but this is where it's really great for ideas, and then you should take your taste and experience and your own spin on what it outputs, for a few reasons. One, I think just for quality, honestly, and two, that's what helps you stand out as a developer, as a creator, an entrepreneur, or anything, is when you're putting your own spin and taste on things. If all your output is just AI generated and you just leave it as is, then it's not quite you, and it's really easy to replicate. So I would advise that you take a little bit of spin on this. Like, for example, You saw earlier that the App Launch Club, this was largely inspired from ChatGPT. It's almost exactly what it showed me, right? I am probably going to go and make my own adjustments for this. I just wanted to spend some more time with it before, like after, making this video, and it was getting late, so I needed to record my video today. But like, this is not necessarily the final banner image for our community, but it's a starting point, and then I'm going to be refining it from there. So, but it gave me inspiration. Otherwise, like, I'm not an artist. That would have taken me forever, even though it's very simple. But I'm a very visual person, so it just helps to get the ideas out there. So anyways, we've got this SVG done now. So I can download that. And honestly, it didn't do too bad of a job. I'll just put that in here so we can look at it. But I don't know why it has these lines. But, I mean, now you've got an SVG for your icon. So that's kind of cool. Just something you can do with ChatGPT I thought was pretty interesting. It created like a banner for me the other day. It's kind of nice to have thing. So anyways, that's a little bit about how I leverage ChatGPT image generation for app icons and, just kind of visual content ideas. So let's go over our stats today. Let's check my followers. I'm at 848, so that is one less actually. Whoever unfollowed me should follow me again. I think Steven is at 76 still. YouTube subs still at 4. That's all right though, because we are early on, and then we saw the school stuff with. But not to worry, we are moving forward. This is a daily iterative process. We're still early stages, and we're going to keep refining this. On top of these videos, we're going to be doing weekly videos on different topics around Swift Intent and stuff that you are going to partially find in our community, and just relevant AI and iOS developer topics. But thanks for watching this one. It's a bit longer, but really appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next one.